And welcome back. Inside our second hour, let's do a big story. In a move that signals heightened urgency in addressing Nigeria's deepening food crisis, the federal government has officially inaugurated the Agricultural Sector Working Group, ASWG, a national task force dedicated to coordinating policies and strategies across food security and also nutrition. Now, unveiled in Abuja on Thursday, April 18th, the initiative is being touted as a significant step toward combating rising hunger, stabilizing food prices, and boosting agricultural productivity across the country. According to the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abuja, the working group will bring together stakeholders across government, private sector, and civil society to promote synergy, accountability, and also results-driven interventions across the agricultural value chain. Now, while the idea of a multi-sectoral task force is promising on paper, the challenge remains in execution. With inflation still hitting double digits, farmers facing insecurity, and food systems largely underdeveloped, many are watching to see whether this new initiative can translate policy into tangible results. So, we are going to be joined by a very interesting guest who is going to help us break this down.
Oh, yes, indeed. Joining us live in the studio is Nnemeka Obiareri. He's an investment banking executive and development economist, and also has a lot of interest in agriculture. And so he's joining us to, cover the important issues when it comes to food insecurity in Nigeria. Mr. Emeka, thank you so much for joining us. Or rather, Dr. Nnemeka Obiareri. Because I remember your champions, I wouldn't say your fans, they said, please, he's a doctor. Stop saying Mr. I'm sorry, sir.
Forgive me, sir. Good to have you.
Good to have you. So you're champions indeed.
You've also dipped your feet into all the way to ankle high, maybe knee high, into the agricultural sector. So you're in the best place to actually talk to us about this. Yeah. A task force set up to manage food insecurity, availability, affordability. Is this going to work?
We do not need any task force to ensure food security and turn this country into an agro hub of paradise. And I say it because I've been experienced in this industry, not just as an investment banker financing agro products and agro commodities, but as one who has put his feet on the ground and is running one of the biggest agro parks in the southeast of Nigeria. And I say it with every sense of responsibility. Nigeria has no business having food insecurity, having food prices, inflation at double digits. In fact, we should be in the best position to cover the over $90 billion food import into Africa if we do the right things. The job of the federal government is just to provide security. Security of lives and properties, provide the infrastructure, the rail network across Nigeria, working with the state government. But by the reason of the Land Use Act, the lands are still under the control of the states and local government chairmen. And the land is one of the key critical factors of production. We have the 4 factors of production. The human capital, which is the most essential, because it's the human mind that divides everything and integrates all the factors. Then the land, which is very essential. There's nothing you produce or process in the world that does not come from the earth, either on the surface, agric, or under the surface, the raw materials that you need. And then we have the capital, which is the funding, and then we have the equipment and machineries. What the federal government should be doing is to ensure 24/7 this is stabilise security cover across every inch and breadth of the 923,000 square kilometer landmass in Nigeria. Be able to go in and do agripreneurship, provide the infrastructure, and then the policies. I give you an example.
Oh, sir, before that example, yes. Let's take a very quick short break. But please hold that thought because it sounds very important. Let's do a short break. When we come back, Dr. Obiareri will continue with his submission. Welcome back. We're still on our very first big story, and we're talking food insecurity, or rather security, where the federal government has set up a new task force, the ASWG, and we have Dr. Obiareri in the studio here with us, who is very vast in the topic, especially from an investment point of view into agriculture. Sir, you were going to give an example to buttress your point.
Yeah,
okay.
Before the break.
There was a time in this country we used to have the steer group that produced tractors, assembled tractors in Nigeria. Yeah. They are no longer here. And like I was trying to explain, there are 4 factors of production. Here in Nigeria, we have over 210 million Nigerians who are less than 65 years old, active working population. We have 72 million farmers who are not producing enough because of insecurity, wrong farm practices, and all the rest of them. We have farms, farm equipment, and agro-processing materials. We don't produce any of them here. A right, smart thinking government should put zero tariff. Tractors, farm implements, bulldozers, processing plants, so that
on importation.
On importation, yes, because these are actually one of the key factors that catalyzes productivity in the agro sector. Annually, we lose over 3.5 trillion naira on post-harvest losses. All the equipments, from dryers to processors to transport trucks and air-conditioned trucks, are not produced here in Nigeria.
Just a second, sir. Now,
Yes.
I'm very interested in agriculture, but when you talk about zero tariffs on these equipment and tractors and harvesters and all of the rest, you're talking about a situation where we are all well and good into a large-scale mechanized farming. That's not something that we see here in Nigeria. Most of the commodities that we have all come transported in from Benue, from Sokoto, and these are just small-scale farmers who put a harvest together and then ship it down to the urban areas.
And that is where the state government and local government chairman comes in. The federal government of Nigeria only need to provide, I'm just trying to dimension it, what the federal government of Nigeria should be doing. Provide security of lives and properties, put in place policies that ensure that all the critical equipments we cannot produce here, but whether we need to process across the whole value chain, do tariff-free. Because without those equipments, we cannot process, we cannot export. I'll give you an example.
Don't you think the working committee can be able to do that, or
they can do that. The Minister for Agriculture is a member of cabinet. Is a member of FEC. He should produce a product paper to the government. But of course, you need to make a case for it. You need to dimension it in terms of numbers. As I sit down here, I will show you critically, line by line, sector by sector, across the value chain, how we can sweat nothing less than $350 to $500 billion revenue into Nigeria from the agri sector. Netherlands, less than 200,000 people involved in agriculture. We're talking about commercial agriculture. And how do they do it? Less than 200,000. Every year, arable land mass, less than 1.5 million hectares. They do 122 billion euro export annually. They have over 1,025,000 tractor population. They have over 350,000 greenhouses. How do they do it? And in Nigeria, we don't have most of those things. For Nigeria to be able to execute high-tech mechanized agriculture, in the arrangement that we've always listed, I call it the missions, community, diaspora, private-public partnership arrangement. You raised a very important issue. What we are doing is not agripreneurship. What we are doing is farming. Because we've not done it the way they've done it. In order to go and check the top 5 food producing and exporting nations. How have they done it? You cannot invent it.
How did we do the groundnut? The groundnut pyramids.
I am coming to that. In the early 60s, go and look at what Ahmadu Bello did, what Obafemi Awolowo did, and what Michael Obara did. Within a space of 6 years, 214-kilometer agro-industrial belt, from the 4,200 hectares Iroyi farm settlement to the 6,000 hectares rubber latex settlement in Ihe, to the 4,200 hectares Ada palm plantation. Gowon even did even better. How did they do it? What we are doing is not agriculture. You create agro-industrial clusters where you aggregate before movement. I'll give an example now. I sit down here. I was privileged in 2009 to speak to the PDP Governors Forum. And I was very particular. I dimensioned it region by region what they can do. And I said to the northern governors, you have 60 million hectares arable land mass. Sambisa is 6.6 million hectares. Toro is one of the most beautiful places in Bauchi State. 6,000 hectares rich with. I dimensioned and I showed them, I said, if you want to create $200 billion wealth without looking at Fak and Jack from Abuja or from Niger Delta, look at what you will do. Dimension your region into 2,500 clusters, 2,000 hectares to 4,000 hectares. It will take 6 million to 12 million per sector. What will you do? Each sector will have at least 2,200 dairy farmers. In Netherlands, they have 18,260. Let me tell you how it works. It's all synthetic and integrated. The herdsmen, you provide arrangement for them. Within that 2,000, 4,000 clusters, you have 2,200 pastoralists, those nomadic herdsmen. The animal poo that is produced is used, you biodigest it to produce maggots, to produce organic fertilizer for the farmers. The farmers will cultivate things like legumes, maize, and other things. And you have 500 hectares of date palm plantation for the oils of wealth. Then all that the government will do within those clusters is to provide agro rangers. Each cluster will have at least 300 agro rangers, fully trained, equipped, and armed under the supervision of National Security Advisor and the governor. Each of the centers. Now let me tell you what will happen. When you have these centers, 2,000 hectares for the farmers, You have, because a cow, to raise one cow, takes about 2 acres of land. It takes about 17 million acres of land to be able to raise at least the 9.5 million cows, 19.5 million cows we have in Nigeria. This arrangement will unlock over $250 million. Basically, what will happen? The man who has 3 cows will take it to that center. The man who has 4 cows will take it to that center. You provide them the ranging field. You provide them the foliage. The maize farmer, after harvesting his maize, the corn silage is stripped and mixed with other things to produce enough food for the cows. You train people on the best agro practices. You put processing plants within those clusters. Each of those clusters will take $6 million to $12 million to do, and each of those clusters will produce about $42 million.
So I think what you're describing here, it's a chain of
it's
products.
A cycle, it never
it's a cycle,
ends.
exactly.
That is what, if you go to China, you will discover, today China is doing their trade fair. You will see in every region they have industrial zones, from Guangzhou to Shanghai, where they have everybody have their own area.
These are ideal suggestions you're making. The ASWG, however, since they've been given a mandate to make these policies, is it impossible for them to make similar policies like the ones that you have just described?
Very simple. I say, let me tell you, I will provide them with all the working documents. We have a 400-page developed document on this. My brother, it's a no-brainer. We are practically doing it in Anambra State, in Abia State. Because let me tell you, I'm from Imo State. Ask me, how come I'm not developing agro clusters in Imo State? Because I lost so much money. We built an ultra-modern 20,000 litre per day oil mill. Set up an agro park where we are trying to do piggery. China consumes $54 billion worth of pig and pork every year. In Southern Africa, the Chinese here consume about $3 billion worth of pork. They bring it in from South America and other places. We had an arrangement with them to produce for them, and how we can set up clusters in the southeast, because there is allowed. There's some part of Nigeria where they don't allow it. We set up to do 100. We started with a colony of pigs. Those pigs were slaughtered and eaten in less than 3 weeks by unknown gunmen.
Wow.
The factories were destroyed because of insecurity. That was why
insecurity is at
in
the
Imo, yes,
even in Imo State is still at the core of the challenges.
Okay, but even in Abia, it was like that until LXO became government.
Now, Dr. Berry,
it has improved.
If this ideal situation, God given, is put in place by the ASWG, what advantage for exports? And what countries and how can we exploit these export opportunities?
God bless you. We're not even looking outside Africa. Under the African Free Trade Arrangement, the ACFA framework, Africa imports over $90 billion worth of food.
From what countries?
From other countries, from Asia, from Vietnam, from the US, from China, from India, and all the rest of it. Nigeria stands at a place to provide that supply to cover up that domestic supply gap. I'll give you an example. In 1965, Nigeria was controlling 45% of the global palm oil value chain. Today, that market is $82 billion size, controlled 85% by Indonesia and Malaysia. It will shock you that in 2022, we imported $570 million worth of palm oil. 2021, we imported $370 million worth. Nigeria, to cover the supply gap, we consume 2.4 million tons. We produce only 1,050,000 tons. To cover that gap, I am developing clusters of the hybrid species. I have over 1 million of them in our clusters where we're doing 10,000 each. It will take 85 million trees, cultivating 400,000 hectares of the land, and setting up 680 cottage factories. These things can be done within 2 years. Government, they are not supposed to provide money. It's to provide policy, program, bulwark for the private sector. But basically what we know, since the governments have refused to do what we have done.
But isn't that what they're trying to do now with the ASWG? I don't know if you agree with me. Do you think that it's totally impossible for...
The thing about our government, and I just want to bring the tempers down, the thing about the government is, number one, at every juncture, there's always a committee that is created. It's either a national working committee, a state working committee, a steering committee. There's always a committee.
So let's put
that, let's put the committees aside. Let's talk about the issues that you've pointed out. You talked insecurity, logistics, and mechanization. But I would like for us to settle on insecurity, which still is an issue. Away from food, is still an issue that we're dealing with in communities are mourning, right? And you said something. The states and the local government councils, they are important when it comes to assuring success.
Key and critical.
Critical in success when it comes to the lands and logistics and the network of the rails But what about insecurity? Does the bulk also end at the local government and the state governors?
Let me show you how you can use this MCDPP framework to curb insecurity. I'm from Imo State. Like I told you, I'm from Okigwe in Imo State. And I will tell you, insecurity thrives when unlawful terrors have intimidates the community and the people. Only lawful terror can deter and subdue unlawful terror. And what is that lawful terror? I'll give an example. In my state, we have 305 electoral wards. If there are no forests for unknown gunmen and bandits to go and hide, if the forests are recovered and turned into agro-wealth, and those youths who are being misguided are given lawful employment that gives them at least 150 to 200,000 every month in the village, I tell you, insecurity will be slain within 6 months.
I think it's easier said than done. I'll give you examples. In Cross River State, there was one of the largest palm oil companies. It was from Malaysia. I keep forgetting its name.
Wema Group.
Fantastic.
Wema Group.
And it was during, what's his name now?
Wema PZ partnership.
PZ, fantastic.
Yes.
And they were seated at particular hectares. I think it was Unugep or Itigidi local government area. When the youths went there for jobs, they had to go to the criteria, which is making sure that they met the qualification. They nearly, I'm paraphrasing the governor now, the then governor, he said they nearly burned down that plantation because of, number one, that the youth were unsatisfied with the jobs they were getting, the stipend that they were getting, or better yet, the land that was ceded to them. And he said, we brought this for employment, but there's still a criteria that you have to meet to be employed. So how are they doing the parameters? Because if the youth are not gainfully, if the youth don't meet the job specifications or the requirements, how are they going to get the jobs?
That you will have allowed me to land. The nation's community diaspora, private public transit work that we developed is one that gives the youths and the communities ownership of the project. Land in the south is not like in the north. It's highly contested. People are always very shy or very careful. You come and take the ancestral land and over somebody. The arrangement we had, I'm trying to give you the example. We have 305 electoral wards in the southeast. And I here suggest to the governors or those in local government chairman. In my own community, we surveyed over 178 hectares of land, right? And the arrangement is very simple. Let us decide we want to do 100 hectares of palm plantation, which we can easily do, and intercrop it with the food crops that can be harvested within 6 months, 3 months for quick cash. We ask the community, you have this 178 hectares, donate 100 hectares. We are not taking it away from you. These 100 hectares will be incorporated under, and from Amago Incorporated Cooperative, right? We parcelate it into 1 hectare. I run CFAP code, and I know how land is with the communities. When you don't carry them along, you're creating wahala. These 100 hectares, each of them, we are going to own 1 hectare under that cooperative. We produce the mechanized equipment, bulldozers, we clear the place. Government give us borehole, provide infrastructure. The community nominates 20 of their sons who act as agro-rangers. Agro-rangers fully captured, fully registered, with security points to provide security for that axis. Now let me tell you what happened. The land belongs to them. I, as a private sector investor, I am providing them with seedlings. I am doing it under what I call vendor financing. I'm giving you the seedlings. When you start harvesting, I will offtake everything at a great price. Local government chairman, we are working with them under SPB. We are paying them enough stipend. Now let me tell you what will happen. At the end of every harvest, that is what we have proposed. You deduct the cost of running the place, the cost of the stipend, and the community owns at least 30% of the profit from that angle. What we have, you have given them ownership. They are not losing their land. They are protecting the place. If you do 100 hectares in every of the electoral ward, we're talking about 1.3 trillion revenue. That's not the whole value chain.
Very quickly, because we're pressed for time, do you think that the government has lost its will for improving our agricultural sector because of our over-dependence on crude oil? Very quickly.
It's not just losing their will. It's a combination of incompetencies, lack of compassion, lack of empathy, lack of patriotism. Michael Okpara was a 39-year-old medical doctor who loved his people. He had this policy, affordable food on the table of every member of the Old Eastern region. And in a period of 7 years, he created 2 Fortnite industrial belts.
the fastest growing economy in the whole of the Commonwealth, had the most efficient police force, that when they were having problem in one of the Central African Republic, they asked for his police force to come and make peace. One thing that differentiated Michael Obafemi Awolowo, Desmond Mbakwe, Lateef Jokonde, with the current crops of leaders we have now, is the issue of having that will.
But those times were times where that was pre the oil boom. Because if you're calling times that was pre
1979 to 1983, that was oil boom.
That was oil boom.
Yes, we have Lateef Jokonde, we have above Desmond Mbakwe, we have Jim Nwobodo. Go and look at what Sam Mbakwe did in from the chicken poultry to the golden chicken. Go and check what this guy. See, let me tell you, my sister. The truth is, there is no state governor in Nigeria that cannot raise $10-20 billion from the agro value chain in their state. If they can humble themselves and come down from their high horses, pro bono will provide them with all the services that they need. Pro bono, we're not going to charge them. The truth is, these guys have been, let me tell you, we pay much emphasis on Abuja. Abuja is only supposed to provide the policy, the security, and program. This network thing, look at the late Enugu State is doing. Look at what Peter Mbai is doing. Despite the fact that Peter is just scratching 20%, but you can see that Peter has some direction. Peter Mbai has direction in how these things can be done.